Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, second hour kicks off right now on this Monday morning of August 24th. Thanks for hanging out with us and making us a part of your starts if you're already up and at it. Hopefully you had a good weekend and you're ready to hit up a brand new work week. We spent the first hour talking Brewers, talking some baseball. So let's switch over to some football chat for this hour. Don't forget, too, you can also send us your best and worst from the weekend. Your VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekend. But let's chat a little football to open up the second hour. Packers, second preseason game, Friday night against the Denver Broncos. And if you care about scores when it comes to a preseason football, the Packers dominated then 33-13. But hopefully you don't care too much about scores when it comes to preseason football. Although, seeing some comments, you really care about drives in the second half and 3-and-outs and third stringers and stuff. But yeah, let's take a step back here and realize it's preseason football, people. But nonetheless, when we look at these preseason games, we look at, all right, who kind of stood out to you? Who were some players that stood out to you? Maybe some of the younger guys, the rookies, or guys that are trying to make this team. What or who stood out to you? We mentioned C-Bomb said the rookie Chris McKellen was his pick. Who stood out? And, yeah, I would agree with that. I think I'll have to bring it up, but if I remember correctly, he was second in the team in tackles and really kind of disrupting the line of the scrimmage. So he definitely had himself a good night against Denver and maybe putting himself in a position, I don't know about a base starter with Hargrave and Devontae Wyatt, but definitely put him in there. I thought Kamal Haddon, the nickel corner, slot corner, he had himself a really good night, made a couple of great plays, also up there in tackles too. I think, he is one guy that has definitely taken advantage of his opportunity with Javon Bullard out with an injury. Kamal has definitely been playing really well here as of late, and I almost want to say I think he's a lock to make this team. Now, he is really, I think, taken a big leap in his play and has really found himself a role within that nickel spot. But he jumped out to me. Jagger Burton, offensive line, I think it was kind of up and down. I was really trying to pay attention to the offensive line play between him and Jacob Monk because I think there's one starting guard spot up for grabs. That game on Friday night had Burton starting at left guard, Jacob Monk at right guard, and Anthony Belton was starting at right tackle. But, kind of an up and down, had some good plays, and then, some questionable ones after that too. So, but overall, I think just kind of, in my opinion, some other things that kind of stood out from that game is there's going to be some tough decisions, I think, from a defensive line standpoint, who to keep. Jonathan Ford has been making plays. Hargrave is obviously there. Devontae Wyatt. I mean, I think those two are your starters, but you get throw in Chris McKellen too. So there's been and then the other dude who from the defensive line standpoint, Anthony Campbell has been continuing to make plays, and he made some plays again in that game, but he was making plays a lot in preseason practices. So I think Green Bay is going to have some tough decisions on there. You look at Strong, the running back, had the nice return. Is he making a play potentially for a spot on this team? And then, I feel like wide receiver, a lot's going to depend on, we hear GMs kind of say, it depends. They don't really have a number set. It just kind of goes how the board falls. But I think it's safe to say we know like the 6 wide receivers. It's, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, Sky Moore. It's probably Bo Melton. I don't know if there's another receiver. Isaiah's made some plays, Will's made some plays, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But is it enough to overtake one of those last 2 spots? I don't think so, but maybe. And don't really want to get to where Green Bay's carrying 7 wide receivers. That I don't know if I want to see, but other than that, those are kind of the main thing. Trey Smack, too. I mean, the dude is just, maybe he's just a guy. Let's just ignore what he does in practice and just focus on games, because he is dead on in these games. Not only is he making these deep kicks, Justin, the dude is like down the middle. The accuracy on some of those kicks is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's been fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't been like, nope, boom, right down the middle with extra yards to gain here. And I think that team now, the more times he does that in these preseason games, they're going to have the confidence in the world. I mean, to do it at Pittsburgh where it's tough to kick, then you go into the elevation in Denver where he probably could have hit like a 70-yarder or so. The dude has been really, really impressive so far. So I'll always be nervous about a kicker, but the levels of being nervous is probably a little bit smaller right now.
Yeah, it's trending down. Maybe them worrying about how and where he's striking the ball in practice is a good thing.
Yeah. What else? Did anything else kind of stand out to you from Friday night's game?
And no, it was mainly just Pierre Strong Jr. I'm happy you mentioned him. Very nice kick return, and then he even did good on the ground. I mean, 8 carries, 37 yards is not bad, especially considering how our offensive line has been playing.
Yeah.
So I like him. Maybe he's made a play, but then you're carrying 4 running backs. But with Jacobs, there's always the chance the suspension could be handed down. Don't know when that news would strike. So
that's the tough part, right? Yeah. And I'm sure, and maybe Green Bay knows, but let's assume they don't. They probably want a resolution or a decision here rather soon. So because that does affect potentially what they would do in terms of how many running backs do you carry. Do you carry 3? Do you carry 4? Yes, there's the practice squad, but we have to remember too when it comes to this, and maybe we make more of it than what teams do. But when it's cut down day, these players go on waivers, to which a team could pick them up and put them on their starting roster. A team can't just pick them up and stash them on the practice squad. They would have to put them on their starting roster. So maybe we make more of it than what it needs to be, but. I thought it was interesting, too, that Cam Achord, the special teams coordinator, kind of talked about he likes running backs being returners because of the vision of their field, which, honestly, it kind of makes sense, following your blockers and just seeing – and you kind of put it comparison for running back. That makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind having Strong and Sky Moore back there as, kind of 2 returners, and whoever they kick it to, if both of them can be a weapon, why not use it?
Yeah. And I think, when it comes to that, it's not necessarily who's the fastest guy in the field, right? If you can't see the vision, you can't hit your holes and know where you're going. Your speed ain't going to mean anything. It's if you get it in the open field, then great, awesome. Nobody's going to catch you, but you got to get to that open field first.
I feel like speed works a bit more on punt returns, maybe.
Yeah.
Because usually there's a little bit of space there and you can kind of bounce it. But yeah, on kick returns, I think I'd sacrifice a little bit of speed for like much better vision on the field.
Right. Yeah. I would agree with that. And so Packers now have the final week of camp, the final week, not to be dramatic, but the final week for some of these players to maybe continue to chase their dreams or have jobs as a football player. So this is a big week for a lot of these players. And, I still say that I think, this is just, again, me, but I feel like Green Bay has a good idea already of who they're keeping, who they're letting go, probably have a pretty good idea of who their starters are going to be. So, we talk about the guards. I feel like they probably already know who they're going to roll with week 1 for a starting unit. I feel like Aaron Banks is going to be a starter, but maybe the leash is a little bit short. I feel like Monk is probably going to be the other starter, with Burton being the primary backup. From a corner standpoint, I know we're all focusing on Keyshawn Nixon. I still feel like it's going to be him as a starter opposite of Brandon Cisse. Now, I know Cisse got hurt, but it doesn't sound like it's anything serious, so should be ready for week 1. I feel like it's going to be those two. I know there's going to be fans that don't want that. Now, there could be moves made, trades, that sort of stuff happening, but right now I feel like we have a good idea. Green Bay for sure has a good idea of what they're going to roll out there for week 1. So, yeah. There's probably going to be a couple positions up for grabs on Friday night's game, but those are going to be bottom end roster type of, like it's Strong maybe, like if Strong goes out there on Friday against the Cardinals, or even these joint practices, and he has himself a hell of a game, yeah, he probably wins a job then, right? I mean, he probably wins a job. Other than that, there's, you got a 53-man roster. Green Bay's probably already got 50 of the guys already selected in their minds. So maybe even higher than that. Maybe it's 51. I don't know, but we got more football talk with Green Bay. I got a few of you texting in on who stood out to you, so let's get to that. We'll take a quick break and continue some football talk here this morning, but if you're just joining in, who stood out to you in Friday night's game, and who do you think, with this week, who do you think this is maybe a defining week for them with the joint practice? You hear a lot of these coaches now say they get more out of these joint practices than they do these preseason games. So who do you think is on that roster bubble that really, really needs to shine this week? Anybody at the top of your mind? Let us know. I got a few of you that texted in with your picks. We'll get to those, but let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Fall sports is fully underway. Friday night football to volleyball, soccer, cross country. Athletes across the Chippewa Valley are getting ready to compete and are competing. But when injuries do happen, getting the right care matters. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine specializes in helping athletes getting back into the game with expert orthopedic care, sports medicine, and treatment that you can trust. Whether you are a weekend warrior or a high school athlete chasing your goals, their team is here to help keep you moving. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, your partner in staying active, healthy, and ready for a season ahead. So a lot of you texting in with some of your players who stood out to you in the Packers' second preseason game, a win against Denver. A lot of you going with the rookie Chris McKellen. The majority definitely going with Trace Mack, the rookie kicker. And then a couple of you also put in Strong, the running back. So names that we've already thrown out there and mentioned. But with the final week of camp, the final preseason game, we got joint practice this week. If I asked you, Justin, to give me a position group that you're most intrigued to follow this final week, or maybe the position group that you feel like has maybe the most uncertainty yet, or jobs are still up for grabs. Is there a position group that kind of jumps to the front right away in your mind when you think about it?
Well, there's defensive back will always be, especially like corner, will always be a question, and then kind of just offensive line. There might be a few spots, at least backup spots, that might be kind of whoever plays best gets them. Yep. So I'll be watching kind of those two probably the most.
Yeah, I mean, you look at corners, for sure. I think there's going to be Keyshawn Nixon is like target number one for a lot of people, and understandably, and I get it. The Brandon Cisse, hopefully it's nothing serious, because if Brandon Cisse is hurt, first of all, when he said it was a knee, I was like, oh crap. You start thinking knee, but then it doesn't sound too serious. We'll probably know a little bit more today, but I mean, I think he's at the point, just rest him down for week one, right? I mean, he's shown enough to show you that he's CB1. He's cornerback number one. So just set him out this week and make sure he's ready to go for the Vikings week one. But you look after that, it's Keyshawn, it's Benjamin St. Juste, it's Carrington Valentine's now back. I think Kamal's made himself a spot on this team. Javon Bullard's going to be listed as a safety, but he's their nickel guy. So maybe one more corner on this team if everybody's healthy. And so you kind of look at that. Is that a Jalen Simpson? Is that maybe somebody else that's not on this roster yet? There might be that battle for that final cornerback spot on this team. And really, whoever that is, they might get playing time this year based off our history with Green Bay and the cornerback position. So, I mean, or special teams at least. You got to be a gunner or do something on special teams. Offensive line, you mentioned it, Anthony Belton is not having the greatest camp. I don't know if it's because they're moving him to tackle, and he finished the season at guard last year, whether that's part of the reasoning. But you definitely look at the depth. I think we know the starters. It's, for my money, my guess, it's going to be from left to right: Morgan, Banks, Ryan, Monk, and then Zach Zebach, we're going to call him now with his name change. Burton, the Kennard injury, I think is just going to. He was a swing tackle, but I think now with him out, he might not even be on the team, or at least opens up, maybe on injured reserve or something like that. Belton, I still think makes the team, so that's 7 there. Just boils down to the question: how many offensive linemen do you take? 8, 9. I think they'll probably want to carry at least 8, possibly even 9. I think the fun one, though, for me is going to be, and maybe where the toughest decisions, is going to be that defensive line group. I think we know the top 2 for sure. It's Hargrave and Wyatt by default, right? I mean, you sign Hargrave in the offseason. You gave Wyatt the extension in the offseason. McKellen's going to make the team because he's a third-round pick and he's a rookie, and he had himself a good game, the other day. He's been having some good practices. But I look at this guard group now on the defensive line here. What about a Carl Brooks? What about a Jonathan Ford? What about an Anthony Campbell? What about a Stackhouse? This is a base 3-4, and we know a lot of defenses now are nickel. So maybe you don't carry as many defensive tackles. But if Wyatt's on there and Hargrave is on there, and then you've got, Chris McKellen being a spot, how many defensive linemen do you carry? Maybe 5, maybe at most 6. That's going to be a tough call. And you look at a guy like Campbell who has had himself a good camp, but then I think it kind of, if you're Brian Gutekunst, you're like, okay, but I feel confident that we're going to be able to stash him on the practice squad, sort of thing. It's almost kind of a gamesmanship to be played at that point. So to me, that might be the toughest group to try to figure out who do you keep, because you've got 3 locks essentially already on there.
Yeah, that is tough. Man, I didn't even think about that. I would like to see Carl Brooks again. I feel like he has flashed a lot of potential, and I feel like he's played. Sometimes they'll put him more of an end spot. So
yeah,
but that is tough because, like you said, Anthony Campbell's been having a great camp. You're keeping Hargrave. McClellan.
Wyatt.
Yeah, but that is tough because they've got 8 on there right now.
Jonathan Ford is just massive. So if you want that big typical nose tackle maybe to be in there to stuff runs, he might just be your early down defensive lineman. The one guy I haven't even mentioned, he's had a good camp too, is Warren Brinson, another rookie from last year, second-year guy. This is a tough group to try to figure out who's going to keep it. I think this is the week where, okay, those guys that are on that line, pun intended, defensive line and on the cut line, they're going to have to flash this week. That, to me, is going to be the hardest one where jobs are going to be up. And I honestly feel like whoever they cut, some of those guys are going to have a legit shot of being picked up on waivers. That's what I believe. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe kind of overlooking it, but that's a steep group of some tough decisions. And then you look at the edge. I mean, Micah Parsons, we know, is not going to be there. Van Ness is there. He's going to be a week 1 starter. Barron Sorrell is going to be on there. I think Brenton Cox Jr. is going to make it. Colin Oliver, I think, is going to be on there too. But then the other part in this thing is, you got Dennis Sutton, who's probably going to, maybe. How many do you carry knowing Micah is going to be missing the first few weeks, but you still need some depth at that spot? So it's like Brenton Cox Jr., it's Dennis Sutton, Colin Oliver, Barron Sorrell, Lucas Van Ness. 5?
Yeah. 6 if you count Parsons, but he's going to start on the pup.
Yeah, so that's probably there. I still think his defensive line is the toughest one.
Yeah, I do not envy Goody at all and LaFleur at all this week. No. I guess on the 30th.
Yeah, and I think and the other part too, going back to the corner, not to keep flip-flopping here, but Jonathan Gannon has said that, and we know it, he likes 3 safety defense. He likes his safeties. So does that factor in with how many corners versus safeties do you keep? Like Javon Bullard's going to be the nickel corner. Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, they're locks. But Oladapo has been playing a lot of reps in preseason. I think Mark Perry's had himself a really good preseason. He's in both of these games, he has made plays, whether it's been a big tackle or even a pick the other night on Friday night. So how much does that play into how many safeties do you keep on here too? So, and the fact that Jonathan Gannon likes playing that three safety coverage. Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what they do with this thing. I think defense might be the toughest one in terms of who you all keep. Offense might be a little bit more cut and dry. I think Strong is the one that's going to be interesting to watch this week.
Yeah,
because if Strong runs for 100 yards,
kind of have to keep him,
right? It's kind of like the Emmanuel Wilson from the last couple of years. He would have like a really good preseason game or have a good preseason and like force the team to keep him.
Or if he pops another return.
Yeah. He could be a Desmond Howard. If he returns a touchdown, I mean, that might seal it for him.
I would love that. So,
yeah, I think there's still a lot to kind of follow this week as we get to joint practices. And, Goody has said, this is going to be the interesting part in this, too, that he has mentioned about keeping 2 kickers on the roster. And the way that this has kind of gone, because right now when you look at it, excuse me, he's only got Trace Mack, but then he's got, I think I don't know, but it's not loading up for me. But he did talk about last week about potentially keeping like 2 kickers on the roster, maybe just one on practice squad is probably the best way to go about it, is what I would assume, is he'd like to have one on the practice squad. But if he was referring to like 53-man, I don't think he could do that. And the way Trace Mack's kicking, you don't need to keep 2 kickers on the roster. If you want one on the practice squad, fine, right? To have a little bit of a backup. If you want to do that, go for it. But I don't think there's a need to carry 2 on this roster. Give it to Trace Mack's been impressive. So, all right. How about the rest of you? You can let us know. 715-830-1912. We've got Surveyor Sam saying, good morning, DK, and all the listeners. 3 things from Friday's game. Trace Mack is that dude, all in caps. Kamala Haddon has solidified himself on the 53. The final roster spot, I believe, is between 3 guys, and they're all wide receivers. Shepard, J. Michael, and Isaiah Nair. So I will follow that up with you, Surveyor. Does that mean they carry 7 wide receivers? Because to me, there's 4 locks at wide receiver. Watson, Reed, Golden, and Savion Williams. 2 I probably wouldn't put in the lock, but I put comfortably as Sky Moore, so that'd be 5. They love Bo Melton, and that'd be 6. So does that mean Cervera fall, or do you believe one of those 2 guys is out from Sky Moore to Bo Melton? I don't know if I'd like 7 wide receivers. I feel like there's other needs.
Yeah, especially with what we just talked about, the D-line, both edge and D-tackle.
I do think of those 3, 2 are back on the practice squad. That Surveyor listed there. At least 2 are on the practice squad. All right, we got to take a quick break. Plenty more to get to, though, as we halfway through the second hour on this Monday morning. We'll be right back in just a skosh. Don't forget, you can sign up right now for our Pro Football Weekly Pick'em Challenge. Just head to sportstalk1051.com. Scroll down a little bit on the homepage, and you'll see a logo icon image that says Win Stuff. Click on that, and then once you click on that, it'll take you to another page where it says Pro Football Challenge. Click on that, bada bing, bada boom. There you go. And then you can just sign up to start making your picks. It's brought to you by Home Oasis and Wisco's. And whoever has the most amount of picks right at the season ends, you're going to win some prizes. So it's free to join, free to play. Again, just go to sportstalk1051.com and click on the Win Stuff image, and then the Pro Football Challenge, Pro Football Challenge picture, and that'll take you there for the sign up. Surveyors saying, I think Sky Moore hasn't done enough in the return game to solidify himself on the 53. Not when we've seen big returns from other guys. He needs to ball out in the last game. I don't know. Like, I go back to Goody's comments a couple weeks ago, and I know it was a couple weeks ago, and a lot of things could change, but he really gave the impression that, like, Sky Moore was going to make the team almost regardless. And I think we've seen him a little bit more involved, too, in the offensive side of games. I don't want to say he's a lock, but gosh darn it, he almost feels like he's kind of in that spot. What do you think?
I mean, it feels like it. I mean, we immediately signed him to help out with special teams after a new special teams coordinator. So the special teams have just been a point of emphasis for this team. There's been no real returner the last few years. It's been just kind of a hodgepodge of people since Keyshawn Nixon said he didn't want to do it anymore. So I think they keep him around just for return game, even if Pierre Strong is kind of your main guy, but who says he makes the team?
Or maybe Sky Moore is your punt returner and Strong is your kick returner back there with Sky Moore.
Yeah.
Vice versa sort of thing. I don't know, but it's those other receivers that Surveyor did mention have played really well though too, and I could definitely see why this is going to potentially be a tough decision for Green Bay. They give them all credit. They've made some plays at certain points in practice or in these games at preseason. And, if they didn't have maybe 4 locks, one of them probably does make the team. But I do think there's a decent chance that at least 2 of those are going to be back on the practice squad for Green Bay. But they've put themselves in that position to at least have this conversation. They've done a really, really good job so far. I mean, Will Shepard probably had his best game the other night with 6 catches and on 6 targets, I think it was. Caught everything that was thrown to him.
Yeah.
6
catches, 6 targets, 47 yards, and the touchdown.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, how about Marshawn Lloyd though? Getting a touchdown. I mean, showcasing a little bit what he could do in the passing game. I know there wasn't a ton in terms of running, but at what point is there a point where we just stop, holding our breath when it comes to Marshawn Lloyd? Kind of similar to from a kicker standpoint, like, okay, is he going to make it? Is this or maybe we just don't stop holding our breath when it comes to Marshawn Lloyd's health and worrying about his hamstring.
I think he's got to make it through a full season before I stop holding my breath, pretty much. Kind of like Watson now. Watson's hamstrings are, I think, a thing of the past. I feel like he's got that all worked out.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Knock on wood.
But, yeah, I think Marshawn Lloyd has to get a full season under his belt with missing minimal time. If he misses a game or 2, I feel like everybody does at this point in the NFL.
Right.
But he's got to put together a full season.
Soon as we hear, hopefully we don't, but as soon as we hear like another soft tissue injury or something like that, then it's going to be like, oh, crap. Here we go. And okay, so we talked about Josh Jacobs, how many running backs you carry, but all right, how much you factor in Marshawn Lloyd and just because of his injury history, does that factor in how many running backs you carry? Because I feel like Chris Brooks is going to be on the team. He's kind of their third down back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, the Josh Jacobs situation, but also Marshawn Lloyd's injury history, does that pave the way for somebody like a Pierre Strong Jr. to make the team just so you have that extra depth?
It definitely can. And honestly, the more that you say it, I see it happening. Because there's the chance Marshawn Lloyd misses the season. There's a chance Jacob misses time. So, yeah, I think it keeps him just because, you don't want Chris Brooks as your every down back.
Right.
He's, like you said, he's their third down, their pass pro back. But yeah, those 2 have question marks for sure.
So Pierre Strong Jr., he's not a rookie. He's actually been in the league for a few years. He was with the Patriots. I believe it was a 4th-round pick with the Patriots. Let me see if I got it. Yeah, 4th-round pick by the Patriots in 2022. And then he'd spent some time with Cleveland from 2023 to 2024. Then the Packers signed him to the practice squad last year. So, I mean, he has been in the league for a few years, a little bit of a veteran type of experience. So, the fact that he was a 4th-round pick, I know some people might say, well, he's a 4th rounder, but 4th-rounders are still expected to be at least contributors in some way or fashion. So, South Dakota State, I mean, Packers have had some luck with South Dakota players too. So, but yeah, I mean, he's put himself again. I think for a lot of these players that are on that bubble, on that line of making the roster, you just got to put yourself in a position where you're in the conversation, of making this team or not. And I think, Pierre Strong, Shepard, those receivers that we mentioned, those defensive linemen we've mentioned, they've done that, and it's made, at least in our eyes, tough decisions for the front office, for the coaching staff. But I still feel like they've got a good idea. Green Bay has a good idea, probably of 49, 50 players already that are going to be on this team. That's what I feel like. And honestly, I hope that's where they're at, too, because if you're like, oh, gosh, maybe we only got like 35 locks. I don't know if that's in a great situation for a team that's got Super Bowl aspirations. If you're like, oh, yeah, we still got like 20, 15 openings, I'd be a little bit nervous then.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily they're like loaded with these players. These are depth positions. These are backup players. And if you still have all these jobs opening, I think that kind of would worry me more than anything.
Yeah. This team, I'm with you. I think they've got like a good 50 players they want to keep. Mm-hmm. Teams that are like 35 locks, that's probably like the Dolphins.
Right.
Teams that aren't really planning on doing much this year.
Right. And they're just kind of getting through this year because of dead cap stuff and all that fun, trying to reset everything for the following year. So, but today will be an interesting day when it comes, just from an NFL standpoint. We'll finally find out who the Browns' starting quarterback is for week one. That's supposed to be announced today. Is it Shedeur? Is it Deshaun? I still think it's Deshaun. I think it's Deshaun so that they can easily move on from him and bench him after a couple games.
Yeah.
And then they'll go to Shedeur. It's easier to bench Deshaun than it is Shedeur.
Yeah, and I heard somebody else talking about this. Like if you if you start with Shedeur and then go to Deshaun, you can't really go back to Shedeur.
Right. That's why it's easier to start Deshaun and bench him and then go to Shedeur.
Yeah.
So even though Deshaun was awful this past weekend, I think it's Deshaun to open up the season, but Shedeur ends up finishing the season as a starter.
That sounds about right.
So, but this is to say, if you have two quarterbacks in the running, you don't have one quarterback more times than not in this case. So, but all right, what else you got, Packers fans? You can hit us up. Text it on over, 715-830-1912. Our good friend Rob Demovsky from ESPN, he's got his 53-man roster prediction for the Packers. We'll tell you what he picked coming up after these quick words. When you're looking for your next vehicle, choose a dealership that knows and cares about the community that it serves. Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls is proud to be locally owned and operated, providing hometown service and a better buying experience for drivers throughout the Chippewa Valley. Whether you're looking for a new Ford, a quality pre-owned vehicle, or trusted service for the vehicle that you already own, the team at Toyson Ford is here to help. Experience the difference of shopping local. Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls, your hometown Ford dealer. So what does our good buddy Rob from ESPN, Rob Demovsky from ESPN, have for his Packers roster prediction as we enter the final week of camp? Quarterbacks, he's got two, Jordan Love and Tyrod Taylor. Kyle McCord probably going to be on the practice squad. Running backs, three, Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, and Chris Brooks. Says the Packers might be holding their breath that Jacobs doesn't get suspended because of his arrest earlier this year, and that Lloyd could stay healthy after playing one game in his first two NFL seasons. If not, they'll need help here, something we were already kind of discussing. Wide receivers, Watson, Reed, Golden, Sky Moore, Savion Williams, Bo Melton. Packers are deep at this spot, even after losing Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks. Nair, J. Mike had strong camps and would be under consideration if they keep a seventh guy here. Tight end, Kraft, Josh Wiley, Drake Dabney, or a player or two to be named later. Kraft looks like he's healthy enough to be ready for week one after last year's torn ACL, but there's not a lot of proven production behind him. Luke Musgrave will likely stay on the PUP list because of his neck injury. This is the number one spot for Goody to upgrade via trade or waivers. Goody kept 4 tight ends on his initial 53 last year. Offensive line, he's got 10. Morgan, Banks, Sean Ryan, Jacob Monk, Zebach, Anthony Belton, Burton, John Williams, Darren Kennard, and Donovan Jennings. Goody kept only 9 here after initial cuts last season, but perhaps all the injuries up front in 05 will convince him to keep an extra lineman. D tackles, 6. Javon Hargrave, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Warren Brinson, Chris McKellen, and Jonathan Ford. Edge rushers, Van Ness, Sorrell, Brenton Cox Jr., Dennis Sutton and Colin Oliver. Linebackers, Zaire Franklin, Edrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper, Nick Neiman. Corners, Keyshawn, Brandon Cisse, Benjamin St. Just, Carrington Valentine, Kamal Haddon, and Damani Jackson. It says, if there is going to be a high-profile move on cutdown day, it would be Nixon. Perhaps the Packers will try to trade him or release him. They have another corner, Jalen Simpson, who they like. Safeties for Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, and Oladapo. The Packers are light here since they usually keep 5. If that's the case, Mark Perry is the best option. And then special teams is the normal long snapper, kicker, punter. So anything really kind of jump out to you? Otherwise, I thought it was kind of cut and dry pretty much at that point.
Yeah.
Nothing really too shocking.
Yeah,
Could we see Keyshawn being traded?
I could see it. I don't know what you'd get for him, though.
I know Carrington has been mentioned as a possible trade, but he's coming off of a hamstring too. So I know the name out there that's like floated on the Twitter sphere or X sphere, Joey Porter Jr. from the Steelers, which, okay, he's a former first-round pick. Maybe moving on to a different franchise would kind of, but I don't know. I don't think there is that type of splash move, if we even call that a splash move. I would be surprised if he trades for a tight end, like a depth tight end. I don't think we're getting he's trading for a starter of week 1 for Minnesota. I don't see that happening.
No, I don't think that happens. If it happens, it happens at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree. Depending on how they're performing this year too. So, yep. But yeah, otherwise I think that was pretty cut and dry. Cut and dry. So, wrap it up this second hour with football, but to the college side of things. So we've got week 0 beginning this weekend. Badgers are going to be starting off next weekend. But the biggest story in college football now is Daquan Wright, waived by the Browns, is going back to college. Yep. The Cleveland Browns are waiving the tight end who has an agreement in place for the 2026 season to play for LSU if he clears waivers. He is believed to be the first player to have an agreement to return to play in college after signing with an NFL team as an undrafted free agent. He didn't appear, so he originally signed with the Eagles, but claimed on waivers by the Browns on August 11th. He didn't appear in either of Cleveland's first 2 preseason games, and he hasn't practiced in more than a week. This is mind-boggling to me. Sadly, I don't know where you fall on this. I don't think this will be the last. We're going to see more. I never thought we'd see this. I really thought we'd never see something like this happen. I don't know what to make. I'm kind of speechless, to be honest with you, that we're actually talking about this.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they can enter the transfer portal while basically in the NFL is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't like it. They make their choice going to the NFL.
Yeah.
And you see how it is over there. You play there. You shouldn't be allowed to go back to college.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
I agree. I like what the NBA has changed over the last few years. Like, you could go through the draft process, get your evaluation from NBA scouts, even maybe get some help from an agent or something. And then, all right, you get the evals, and it's like, okay, I'm maybe not going to be drafted. I'll go back. Like, I don't mind that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But when you sign a contract, regardless if you were undrafted, you sign a contract, you're practicing, you're doing stuff with the pro team, and then it's like, no, I'm not going to, so I'm going to go back to college to go play it. That one rubs me the wrong way. That one I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. Somebody was like, saying, well, they're just like kids, and maybe they make the mistake. You went pro. That's not really making it. You made the choice. Mm-hmm. You could have stayed in college, and you decided to go pro.
Yeah. Todd Monken with some good quotes that I can't say some of the words. He's like, man, isn't this blank crazy? I don't even know what to say. I wondered why Lane Kiffin reached out to me a week ago. Now I know. I didn't call him back. I guess I should have. So the fact that Lane Kiffin was the one who made the phone call too, I mean, so you've got a college coach that is obviously actively probably like, all right, hey, you're not going to make the team, so why don't you come back to college? Because he had him at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So that's even more sneaky, right? I mean, that's even more.
I really don't like Lane Kiffin, especially after the whole LSU Ole Miss thing went down, and after hearing that too. Yeah, that just feels slimy, honestly.
Yep, I know. I completely agree. It's yuck, and I don't like it. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see more. I really do.
We're definitely going to. Wasn't it like 16 players already sued?
Yeah, it's
or something.
I don't know what college sports is just such in a spot. How do you get out of some of this stuff? NIL, transfer portal, this now. We saw it in basketball, right? Guys suing to get back and going to play for college teams during the season. We saw that, like the Alabama kid. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
it's just at this point, let's stop calling it college. It is minor pros, basically. Like I don't know how to really say. Like the baseball is the minor leagues. This is college is basically the minor leagues for football and other athletics.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I think the floodgates are really going to open up for this. So, all right, we only got a minute left. So, if you want to send over your VFW post at 305 best and worst of the weekend, you could do so. Got a couple to hit up in the next hour, so we'll do that. Also, we'll get back to some more baseball talk, Brewers talk. Off day today for the Crew after taking 2 out of 3 against the Braves this past weekend. Brewers will be taking on the Mets starting tomorrow. Then they return home with the Rangers, and they'll wrap up the end of the month with a 4-game series, beginning a 4-game series with the Chicago Cubs. So we'll get back to some more baseball talk. We got some local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center also coming up. And, of course, some more football talk here, too. So, but just a few seconds left until these news updates. Justin, have yourself a good rest of the week. Hopefully, when you're back, well, we're talking still first place Brewers. So, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're on to the regular season in the NFL. So,